You're listening to Secrets of the Royals, a podcast about the tragedies that befell the royal family. And we're your hosts, journalists and royal experts, Kerry and Maria. Hi, welcome to Secrets of the Royals. I'm Kerry.
And I'm Maria. Hello.
We're two journalists and old friends.
Very old friends.
Who have worked for many years on newspapers and magazines, and we share a passion for royal content. Between us, we edit a royal newsletter called The Royal List on Substack, and we'd love you to join us over there. So today we're going to talk about the assassination of Lord Mountbatten. It was one of the biggest tragedies to shake up the royal family and the world before the death of Diana.
Yeah, it was a huge incident, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Lord Mountbatten was assassinated by an IRA bomb when he was fishing near his family home in Ireland in August the 27th, 1979.
August again?
Yeah, end of August as well.
I know, it's phenomenal, isn't it? How many sort of tragedies happened to the royals?
Yeah, just over a few days. Yeah, it's really weird.
Yeah, it's really spooky.
So it's interesting to talk about this one because obviously we're living in a very turbulent time now, but I think people have forgotten what it was like to go through that period. We're talking about the middle of the Troubles in Northern Ireland, and this was a seismic event, wasn't it?
Yeah. So who was he exactly then?
Lord Mountbatten was born Lord Louis Francis Albert Victor Nicholas Mountbatten. Excuse my piece of paper, but I do have to.
That's a lot of
names to remember.
Yeah.
But he was known as Dickie to his family and friends.
Thankfully.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he was born in Windsor in 1900 to Prince Louis of Battenberg and Princess Victoria of Hesse, who you have talked about.
Yeah, which we've talked about in another episode, haven't we? Who was Prince Philip's grandmother.
So Princess Victoria's mother was Princess Alice, who was a daughter of Queen Victoria.
Yeah.
So that made Lord Mountbatten Victoria's great-grandson. Now, he had three siblings. One was Princess Alice, who went on to be
Prince Philip's mother.
Yeah. Hence their close relationship.
Yes.
Louise, who became the Queen of Sweden. And then he had an older brother, Prince George.
Yeah.
And he died very young at 45, I think it was.
Yeah, bone cancer. Yeah, very sad. Apparently he was an amazing person, but that's another episode if we ever discuss him. But yes. Yeah.
So the Mountbattens enjoyed a very close friendship with the royal family, and they had a lot of influence, or certainly Lord Mountbatten had a lot of influence. As anybody that watched The Crown will remember, he was extremely involved with Prince Philip's upbringing. We've also talked about this on a previous podcast.
Yeah, because of course his mother was originally the person who looked after him.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then Lord Mountbatten, when she died in 1950, but before that he became very close to his nephew.
So it was him who organised that the royal family and the young princesses Elizabeth and Margaret went to visit
Dartmouth.
Yeah, the Naval College in Dartmouth. And it was at that visit that he arranged also that the young Prince Philip would then look after the two young princesses. So, of course, Elizabeth clapped eyes. She had met him before.
Yeah,
they played tennis
family weddings.
Yes, but she then clapped eyes on this extremely handsome...
dashing man in a uniform.
Yes. And it was at that point that biographers say that as she said, she fell in love in letters.
Yeah.
So that really sealed the deal, and that was Louis Mountbatten's doing. He also was very, very influential in the whole thing about taking the Mountbatten name. So the received wisdom is that Prince Philip was determined that they took the Mountbatten name, but actually this was, his uncle was having quite a lot to do with this. So he insisted that the royal family should then become known, or the royal house should become known as Mountbatten. So in fact, when they got engaged, he is said to have declared House of Mountbatten rules, which is very Game of Thrones. And he was then furious that when the Queen did accede, that they didn't change the name to Mountbatten from Windsor, because Winston Churchill basically wasn't having a bar of it.
Oh, I see. So there's a bit of beef between those two.
Yeah,
maybe.
But they tried again a few years later, and then it was agreed, or it was conceded, that the the children would take the name of Mountbatten Windsor.
Yeah, that's right. Going forward,
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
But so he's thwarted with his game.
He's thwarted. He was very ambitious
plans.
And was a little bit manipulative. He then had a really close friendship with Prince Charles, a great relationship. Prince Charles called him honorary grandfather, and he called Charles honorary grandson, and they wrote back and forth with him giving advice. And he tried to matchmake again.
Of course he did.
He tried to marry Charles off to his granddaughter, Amanda Knatchbull.
Right.
She actually refused Charles. And then he was the one that wrote to Charles and encouraged him to sow his wild oats, but then to choose a wife who was, innocent and inexperienced and,
Well, obviously, because, so she could be pliable.
Yeah.
Because obviously Mountbatten had a bit of a saucy personal life himself. So, yes, of course you'll have mistresses and all that business. Yeah. So we'll go on to that. Yeah.
So in his career,
what did he do?
He was quite a significant war hero. So he was an officer in the Royal Navy in World War One and again in World War Two, and he captained ships and he was awarded for bravery.
So like his dad, because his dad was the first Sea Lord. So he obviously was taken after his own father.
Yeah, absolutely. He oversaw the surrender of Singapore by the Japanese and the recapture of Burma.
Wow.
And then after he became the last Viceroy of India,
right,
when that was through the partition of British India.
Yes, which obviously was another story in itself.
Yeah.
Great tragedy happened there.
But so we've established that he's a war hero and a war veteran, but his personal life was completely on a different level. I think that it's really interesting and important to be able to understand that people can be two things at the same time. They can do good things and they can be bad people. He can be a war hero, but he can have a bad personal life. And we'll come on to very serious allegations against him.
Yes.
But we've kept him in here in the series because we felt that it was an enormous news story at the time and had an enormous effect on the royal family. So that's why we did this episode, really. I mean, his personal life was very messy. So he married Edwina Ashley in 1922, and it was seen as like the society wedding of the year at the time. And they were really threw themselves into the 20s. They were really swinging 20s.
Swinging in all respects.
Yeah, apparently they both had a lot of affairs. He, according to one of his biographers, he said, Edwina and I spent most of our married lives getting into other people's beds. So she is supposed to have had multiple lovers, including Douglas Fairbanks.
And I believe Gandhi.
Which is a surprise. Yes. He had an affair with the daughter of a French newspaper tycoon called Yola Letellier. And they were so basically enthusiastic with their extracurricular activities that the FBI did a report on them and concluded that they were persons of extremely low morals.
Very good going, isn't it?
Yeah. Edwina died in 1960, and he is alleged to have had lovers of both sexes, but more seriously later, the allegations have begun to emerge of the paedophile allegations, which we'll talk about in a moment.
Yeah, but they did have two daughters, didn't they? During all this carrying on.
Yes, they did.
Yes, to do that.
Yes, they did. They had two daughters, Patricia Knatchbull and Lady Pamela Hicks, who did appear in the part of the royal family story in many. They'll appear in and out of various episodes. Thank you to our hotel partner, the Soho Hotel, where we recorded this episode. In the heart of London's Soho, this gorgeous hotel is a favourite destination of Kerry's. Book at ferndalehotels.com. We now get to the tragedy.
That fateful day in Ireland.
So it was August the 27th, 1979, and Lord Mountbatten was 79. And they were at home at Classibourne Castle in County Sligo, which is about 12 miles from the border of Northern Ireland. And a party of 7 of them decided to go lobster fishing on his boat, Shadow 5.
Shadow 5, that's right.
The party included Lord Mountbatten, his daughter Patricia, her husband, Lord John Bradbourne, their 14-year-old twin sons, Timothy and Nicholas, John's mother, Lady Doreen Bradbourne, and then a 15-year-old boy, local boy who worked on the boat called Paul Maxwell.
Yes.
So at 11:45 a.m, an IRA bomb went off and blew the boat up and killed Mountbatten, Nicholas and Paul instantly. Lady Bradbourne died the following day.
I mean, it was just a huge thing.
It was
happened.
enormous. Yeah. Now, he had been advised not to go to Ireland that year, but he didn't see himself as a terrorist target.
No, didn't he say?
Said, who the hell would want to kill an old man anyway? So later it did emerge that there had been previous attempts. They discovered that holes had been drilled in the bottom of the boat, which they at the time put down to vandalism. And then the IRA had attempted to shoot him on the boat on another occasion, but had to abandon it because of bad weather.
Oh gosh!
So the IRA took responsibility, and then I think it was 2021, the Sinn Féin president apologised.
Oh right.
So this was a massive deal. On September the 5th, he had a huge state funeral, which is obviously September the 5th was the day before Diana's funeral, wasn't it?
That's right. Yeah. His was September the 6th. Yeah.
So a huge state funeral in Westminster Abbey, which was televised. And you can see, if you look at the footage, you can see a visibly grieving Queen and Prince Charles wiping away a tear. And he went on to give a reading as well.
Well, they were in Balmoral when it happened.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I mean, so again, it's shown in The Crown, isn't it? When she was told, they found her on the hillside.
But again, in Balmoral, but having terrible news. I mean,
we've done the same.
And that repeats over and over, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So then we come on to this serious allegations. So the tragedy has been overshadowed in sort of recent years, really, because there have been allegations of abuse. And Arthur Smith, who now lives in Australia, he has waived his anonymity and come forward, and he's pursuing a case alleging that Lord Mountbatten abused him twice in 1977 when he was 11, and he was a resident at Kincora Boys' Home, which is a notorious boys' home.
In Ireland, is that
which had been the subject of a documentary called Lost Boys, Belfast's Missing Children.
Yes.
That's a recent one. In 2017, an inquiry found that at least 39 boys had been abused at Kincora. It's
just shocking, isn't it?
Yeah, that's 4 decades after 3 staff members were jailed. So the whole story of this has not been told yet.
No, and obviously we have to just explain the allegations that are out there.
Yeah, it's absolutely horrifying to those poor boys that went through anything like that. It's just awful. But clearly, we couldn't do an episode about Lord Mountbatten and not mention that. So that story is ongoing. Now, what happened afterwards? They had no sons, or Lord Mountbatten had no sons.
Just had his 2 girls.
So his title did go down to his daughter Patricia Knatchbull, and then through her to her son Norton Knatchbull,
who was the eldest son.
Yeah.
Right.
Now the interesting thing that I found about this was that Norton married his wife Penelope, or later known as Penny, in October 1979. This was just 2 months after the bombing.
Yeah, that's amazing, isn't it?
It really is.
Can't get over that. How they could carry on.
Well, I know, and I was looking at the photos of the day, and they were looking happy and resilient and carrying on. I mean, unbelievable the amount of pain they must have been feeling, and the determination to still have that wedding.
Physical injuries and the mental scars as well.
Yeah. And all the missing family that weren't there.
I know.
So
months later.
Yeah. So it would be Norton's wife, Penny Romsey, Penny Knatchbull, who would later appear again for followers or any viewers of The Crown, because poor Penny, her daughter Leonora died aged 5 of cancer. And when she was grieving, Prince Philip offered to take her carriage riding and introduce her to the sport, to just give her something.
Give her something to look forward to, and take her mind off things.
So they developed a really close friendship and went carriage driving until the end of Prince Philip's life.
Yeah.
And she was one of only 30 people invited to his funeral, which was in lockdown.
Yeah. So of course, she was a very important member of that family.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you, Kerry. That's amazing. Tragic tale, isn't it?
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, do share with your friends and subscribe to the Royal List newsletter over on Substack.